Smart women stay broke, and I know that sounds harsh. I know some of you already want to argue with me, but stay with me because I'm not talking about intelligence. I'm not talking about worth. I'm not talking about effort. I'm talking about a very specific pattern that I've seen in myself, in my friends, in women I admire deeply, women who are educated, capable, hardworking, emotionally intelligent, who are still quietly financially stuck, living paycheck to paycheck, unable to save, unable to build, unable to get ahead no matter how hard they work. And the reason it keeps happening has almost nothing to do with how smart they are. It has everything to do with what they were never taught, what they were conditioned to do with money, and the silent financial patterns that nobody names out loud. I'm Tiffany, and today we are having the money conversation that I wish someone had sat me down and had years ago. This is not a budgeting tutorial. This is not a cut your lattes lecture. This is a real, honest, uncomfortable conversation about why so many smart women are financially stuck and what is actually at the root of it. If you have ever looked at your bank account and thought, where does it all go? This video is for you. Let's get into it. Let me start at the beginning, because I think before we can talk about what we're doing wrong with money, we have to acknowledge what we were never taught about it in the first place. Think back. Growing up, what did you learn about money? Not formally, not in a classroom, but in your home, in your environment, in the messages that surround you. For a lot of us, and I include myself fully in this, what we absorbed about money was one of a few things. Either money was something that was always scarce and stressful, something that caused arguments, something that was never quite enough, or money was something that came in and went out and nobody really talked about where it went and why. Or, and this one is subtle but powerful, money was something that other kinds of people had, not us. And when those are the money messages you absorb as a child, you carry them into adulthood without even realizing it. They become your default settings, your unconscious programming, the invisible rules you follow around money without ever having consciously agreed to them. Nobody sat us down and taught us about compound interest. Nobody explained investing in plain language. Nobody walked us through what a budget actually looks like in practice. Not a restrictive punishment budget, but a real intentional one. Nobody taught us to negotiate our salaries. Nobody told us that money is a tool and that tools can be learned. We were expected to somehow arrive at financial competence without ever being given the education. And then we wonder why we're struggling. That is not a personal failure. That is a systematic gap. But here is the important part. Once you see the gap, you become responsible for closing it. And that starts today. Here is the one thing that I don't hear talked about enough. And it is the one that I think affects smart, hardworking women the most, specifically. We spend to cope. When you are working hard, really hard, when you are pouring yourself into a job, managing responsibilities, carrying emotional labor, showing up for everyone around you, spending becomes one of the few things that feels like it's just for you, that feels like relief, that feels like a reward. You had a terrible week at work. You've been stressed and stretched and invisible. And on Friday evening, something in you says, I deserve this. And you buy the thing. And for a moment, a brief, glorious moment, it feels like justice. Like you gave something back to yourself. And then Monday comes and the cycle starts again. I'm not here to make you feel guilty about spending. I'm here to name what's actually happening underneath it. Because the spending is not the problem. The spending is the symptom. The problem is that you are exhausted and undernourished, and the only language you have found for your self-care is a transaction. And when retail therapy is your primary coping mechanism, when the treat is the only thing getting you through the week, your finances will always reflect that. Because you are not spending from abundance. You are spending from depletion, and that is a completely different energy. The question worth asking is, what am I actually hungry for when I reach for my card? And is the purchase going to feed that hunger? Or is it going to cost me twice, once at the till? And once when the feeling fades and the bank balance reflects it. Now here is the pattern that I think is the most specifically female of everything I'm going to talk about today. And it is the one that makes me feel the most strongly. Smart women put themselves last financially, consistently, chronically, often without even noticing they're doing it. We are the ones who lend money to family members and don't ask for it back because it would cause tension. We are the ones who split bills even when we earned less because we didn't want to seem difficult. We are the ones who buy gifts we can't afford because we didn't want anyone to feel unloved. We are the ones who cover costs for other people and quietly absorb the financial hit because that's just what we do. We are conditioned deeply, socially, from childhood, to be financially generous to everyone except ourselves. And then we set up a savings account and wonder why it stays empty. Because future us, the version of ourselves that needs that money, that deserves that security, that is trying to build something, keeps getting bumped to the back of the queue. Every time someone else's need feels more urgent than your own financial stability, future you pays the price. But future you is running out of runway. I want to say something clearly. Being generous is a beautiful thing. Taking care of the people you love is a beautiful thing. I'm not asking you to stop. I'm asking you to make sure that before you take care of everyone else, you have taken care of yourself. You cannot pour from empty, and a savings account with nothing in it is about as empty as it gets. Let me name a few more specific patterns I've noticed in myself and in conversations with women I know. Because naming them is the first step to catching yourself in them. The first one, we undercharge and undernegotiate consistently. Whether it's our salary, our freelance rates, our prices if we're building something, women statistically ask for less, accept less, and push back less when it comes to money conversations. And we lose financially, compoundingly over entire careers because of it. The second pattern, we invest in everyone else's growth before our own. The cause for our child, the support for our partner's business, the contribution to a family member's goal. Meanwhile, our own professional development, our own financial education, our own investment portfolio, waiting, always waiting. And the third, we treat savings as what's left over. I did this for years. I would pay everything, spend what I spent, and then save whatever remained at the end of the month, which was usually very little or nothing. Saving last means saving least. Full stop. The fourth pattern, and this one is subtle. We use financial stress as a reason not to engage with our finances. The worse our money situation gets, the less we want to look at it. The less we look at it, the worse it gets. It's a shame spiral that keeps millions of women financially frozen. And the fifth, we wait until we have more money to start being intentional with money. When I earn more, I'll start saving. When things settle down, I'll sort out my finances. When I have enough, I'll start investing. But the habits have to come before the money. The mindset has to come before the amount. Because if you don't manage 100 Rand intentionally, you will not manage 100,000 Rand intentionally either. So what actually changes this? Because I don't want to leave you with a list of problems and no direction. The first thing that changed everything for me was deciding that my financial life was my responsibility. Not my employers, not my partners, not the economy's, mine. That decision to stop waiting to be rescued financially and to start educating and empowering myself was the turning point. The second thing, I started paying myself first. Before any bill, before any act of generosity, before any treat. A portion of every payment I receive goes directly to future me, automatically, non-negotiably, even when it felt impossible to spare it, especially then. The third thing, I got honest about what my spending was actually telling me. Every purchase has a conversation underneath it. I started listening to that conversation, and what I found changed how I related to money completely. You are not bad with money. You are working with incomplete information, impossible pressures, and patterns you inherited rather than chose. But you are also smart enough to recognize all of that and smart enough to change it. That is the whole point. Smart women stay broke not because they aren't capable of building wealth, but because nobody gave them the tools. Nobody told them to put themselves first. And the world has been very comfortable, keeping them too tired and too generous to notice what's been happening. Notice it now. Start now, even small, even imperfect, even scared. Drop a comment and tell me which pattern hit closest to home. I want to know. And if this video made you think of a woman in your life who needs to hear this, share it with her. This is the kind of conversation that changes things. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you next week.